Hey guys, what is up? So I am getting ready to take a tour of Swampworks around back here. It's where NASA does all its new innovative machining and robotics and stuff like that. It's where all the cool stuff happens at NASA. So I'm going to see what exactly I can talk to you guys about when I go in there, and maybe I can show you guys a little bit of what there is around Swampworks. So stay tuned, I'm going to be right back. So just got done going through Swampworks. It's what's right behind me over here. So I couldn't take any pictures or videos of anything inside there. It's all proprietary to NASA, and it's all, state-of-the-art, brand new conceptual designs. So obviously they don't want anybody else getting a hold of that information. But it was really cool walking around inside there. Let me see if I can just give you a little bit of a look, get you a little bit of an idea of how big the building is. So it's just this whole kind of warehousey building over here. This is the high bay. I'll talk more about what's all in it once I get back to my office, or maybe when I get back home. Just whatever comes first, because now I gotta make the long walk back to my office. So, catch you later. Alright, so here is the back of Swampworks, and we actually gotta walk across this little bridge that you see right here. It connects the high bay to another manufacturing part of Swampworks, and inside that section actually is the second stage booster for the SLS system, the new rocket that's going to take us to Mars and take us back to the moon again. So that was really cool, and I gotta keep going because I gotta get back and see my mentor, but I will be talking more in a sec. Hey, so I am walking through the SSPF building now, making my way back to my office. Just to give you guys a quick look at what it looks like inside one of the primary NASA buildings. See, it's nothing too special. Gotta keep the camera kind of down. Not sure how much I can show of the rooms and numbers and such. Oh, the second show. It's kind of cool. So it's nothing too special. This is the space station processing facility. And yeah, it's just what it looks like in most all the buildings. Got some nice little pictures up around of all of them. All the different shuttle programs and rocket programs that a lot of these people have worked on. So everywhere you go is a lot of history to see. Okay, so I am back in the office finally. It is a new day, as you might have guessed. But yeah, now we get to talk about what I all got to see inside the Swampworks. So this is all the newest stuff that NASA is working on and developing. So I may not be able to talk about all of it, but we'll see how much I'm allowed to talk to you guys about. So let's get started. Alright, so first thing that we got to see was the pit. Basically it's just this big, boxy, dirt-filled arena kind of thing. And that's where they test out the rovers, they test out anything that's going to be on the moon, or now it's going to be on Mars. And it's just really fine, powdery regolith, they call it. Regolith is just basically anything that's not bedrock, so, everything. On Mars, though, and on the moon, it's really, really fine and sharp, like gritty sharp. Not quite like sand, because sand is usually rounded. It's more like broken glass, but on a microscopic level. So it's super, super abrasive, and they really need to have the pit there to test all the stuff on, to see how like electronics breaks down, and to see what kind of machinery can handle that kind of corrosive, coarse material getting stuck into it. Especially things like, wheels and axles and electronics. Anything that's got moving parts in it is going to get torn to pieces by the regolith on the moon and on Mars. So that was really cool to see. They also have a simulated asteroid inside there. Basically, from what I heard, they're just using that to test, like, pulling off pieces of an asteroid. So how much force do you need to pull a piece of an asteroid off of it? It was kind of cool. I mean, it didn't look, too special, just like a giant dusty foam ball. Other thing that was in there is a smaller pit, and that had some artificial moon dust in it, so it wasn't the same as in the big pit, just a smaller cube of dust. That stuff was more like asbestos, so it's super, super dangerous to be using the small pit. I forget exactly what they mostly use that one for, just more testing of stuff. But you have to use like tons of face respirators and all this all this protective equipment when you're walking around that stuff, because if it gets in your lungs, it's basically stuck in your lungs forever. So there was that. There was also a furnace down there, and the furnace is it was really cool. They want to use the furnace to separate out metals and like non-metals from regolith and the dust and other minerals on the moon and on Mars. So that way they can use it for building materials. They can use, if there's any water stuck in the dirt, they can use the water, to drink, or they can use it for other stuff. Oxygen for breathing, hydrogen for rocket fuel, stuff like that. So that was really cool. And it's not very big. It's like I don't know, size of a small refrigerator, I guess. The other thing that was really in there, that was cool in there, is Razor 1 and Razor 2. I think I can say the names of them. They're two rovers. Basically, their purpose is to go and just drill or excavate regolith on Mars. So they got like types of drills, they got a collection container, and they would be used in conjunction with a mobile laboratory. And the laboratory would have like a furnace on it, and chemical analysis things, and experiments, and all kinds of cool stuff on it. And so you send these rovers out, and they go bring back substrate to be tested in the mobile lab, or be made into rocket fuel, be made into water, cool stuff like that. Lots of cool stuff. And the rovers, they look really cool too. There was one that had treads and one of them that had just wheels. And yeah, they had some really good designs on how they made them. They didn't look just like they didn't look like the Curiosity rover, which the Curiosity rover is cool in and of itself, but I mean, it's not like sci-fi cool. The Razor 1 and Razor 2 were more like sci-fi cool. Next thing I had in there was just a little drone. Nothing too special. It was just kind of a solar power drone that they could use on the moon to explore craters and get a reading of the landscape, basically. Just figure out, what's going to be in this place before we, send astronauts or send a lab down into this crater that the sun doesn't reach because they're hundreds of meters deep. It was just a cool little thing to see. Next thing was an Omnibot. I'm not sure how much I can talk about the Omnibot, so there's going to be a lot of little cuts and stuff in this video, I'm sure. So anytime you see a cut, it's probably something that I had to take out because of export control. So I'll just go over as much as I can, and whatever gets left in is, I guess, what I can talk about. The Omnibot is basically a rover that can move in any direction instantly. So most rovers, we just have wheels and you have to turn them, like a car or like a tank if they have treads. The Omnibot, you have it going straight and then just instantly go to the left, to the right, move on an angle. And it's got tools and stuff and experimental equipment like other rovers do. So super functional. Can go anywhere, do anything. This is basically the idea behind it. And it didn't look too special. I mean, it's just like a box with really weird looking wheels on it. Yeah, that was, they didn't tell us a whole lot about that one. So that was basically the gist of what I was told about it. Next thing we saw was then the mobile lab, which I already talked about. Then there were some prototype mirrors. Next thing that we saw was the electrostatic lab, which we didn't get to go inside of that. It was just basically just this massive metal cube that, I don't know, it's electrical safe. I don't know, they didn't tell us a whole lot about it, but it was big, it was really thick metal, it had an airlock on the side of it type of thing. Next thing after that was, what was next? Oh yes, there were a couple of bricks in there too, from the trenches where they launched the rockets. So the bricks, the trench where the rockets are set off of is underneath the launch pad. It's where all the thrust is directed so that it doesn't just blast the launch pad to pieces. And they had a couple of the bricks that had been knocked loose from that trench. And a couple of them were found 60 meters away from the trench, and they just blasted through a couple of fences and buried themselves in the dirt. So there's a lot of thrust coming out of those rockets, and these bricks they wanted to keep to analyze the effect of that thrust and the heat. What's the heat going to do to this material? Can we use better materials that doesn't get just roasted or break apart as easily? Strong cementing so that these bricks aren't flying off so often. So that was neat to look at, and the bricks are just destroyed, melted and black and glassy on some of the sides. Cool to see that. Next thing after that was we went to the separate part of the Swampworks. You saw the little bridge, so we went across that bridge and we went to the other section of Swampworks. And that section actually used to be part of a visitor center. So this whole little catwalk that we walked along used to be part of the original Kennedy Space Center Visitor Center. So it had a really nice lounge area inside of it. There was a couple interns working in there. I saw one of my friends in there and waved to him, and he was like, "No, go away, I'm working." So that was fun. And inside there, actually, what we got to see was the second stage for the supplemental space launch. Let's see, was it the SLS system? I'm trying to remember the acronym. It's a space launch system. There we go. So we got to see the second stage booster for that, which if you've been keeping up in the news, they just barely moved to Kennedy Space Center like a week, 2 weeks ago. And that was just sitting out, getting all set up and checked and everything. No pictures, sadly, again. There's also all the fitters for things like the command module and the support module. And the fitter, as you can probably guess from its name, it's just what the command module, support module, other modules fit into. And it's just a cylinder tube, basically, that goes around it. And then next thing that we got to see after that was just a bunch of like side projects, basically, that looks promising but have just kind of taken a back seat for now. There were some really cool pipe fittings that are watertight, they're airtight, they look really cool, they're really easy to use, and they want to use them for things like water, electricity, just basically keeping dust from getting into anything important. And those were fun to play with, I guess. They just had a few prototypes out. Also, up in that former visitor center area, they had next to the lounge kind of a virtual reality testing area, and the seats for those were helicopter chairs. So I got to sit in a helicopter chair, even though I've never been in a helicopter. And they were pretty comfy. I like them because they make you sit up straight. They're not like these chairs at all, like these things. I think that was everything that we got to see inside Swampworks. So yeah, it was a great experience getting to go in there. I mean, just all the sheer amount of innovation going on in there, and just getting to see a better part of NASA. I mean, it's not just rockets that they're working on, it's all this other stuff too, and a lot of this stuff just makes it into the private sector and then gets used, in private companies or just in general people's infrastructure. So yeah, it was a great experience, and I really hope that I can go back there again. Maybe not this summer, because this is my last week here now. Yeah, it's now the week of the 11th. That's when I'm leaving, and this is a couple of days later after I got back from Swampworks. So yeah, trying to do a little bit better on keeping up on the video recording, but not everything goes according to plan. But hey, I hope you liked seeing around, looking a little bit at a few of the buildings, seeing the Swampworks building. Leave a like, subscribe, tell me what you thought of this video again in the comments below, and have a good one.